Have you ever been arrested for trespassing in some of these places that we're not supposed to be in?
The greatest thing. I mean, obviously, trespassing is not good. We don't do that. Sometimes we find ourselves places after dark. When I first started, I'm gonna see what your answer is to this too, because I don't know the answer. But my favorite. We just got started. We went down to this cemetery called Archer Woods, which is scary in the daylight. It's down in Resurrection Mary territory down Archer Avenue. And we decided we'd spend all day down there because there's so many haunted locations in a very concentrated area. Figured let's spend some time and then eventually go back, spend some time at the other locations and eventually go back. Let's see what Archer Woods Cemetery looks like at midnight. So we go back in there, and then we pull the car forward, leave it running, headlights on, so we could find it if we needed to run out of there. And we had found, we didn't know what the story was, but we found evidence of like little makeshift shrines, and we found like toys, Care Bears hanging by nooses from the trees. So we didn't know exactly what in the world was going on back there. We didn't know if there were, you know, gang or cult or what. So we were afraid of everything basically at that time. And so we're going back along the woods, and we think the driverless hearse, this like 1800s horse-drawn hearse, phantom hearse has been seen, and we see a car pull up. Now, so we obviously run back to the car, and we're actually kind of pleased to see that it was just the police. You know, that we were just going to get arrested. And then another one pulls up, boxes us in, and they're giving us the real bad cop routine for a while. And like, what the heck are you guys doing all the way down south here? Like, well, we're trying to do this documentary about ghost stories. Like, oh, really? And then they just sat and told us ghost stories for about a half hour. So, which was great. So, and those stories are obviously in the book, because police officers can have some creepy stories. They've come across a lot. How about you? Have you ever run into...
I have to say, in all the years of sneaking around places that I wasn't supposed to be in, personally, I never was confronted. But in the past, since we've had the tour company, there have been several occasions. We did a 13-hour ghost tour the day before Halloween a couple of years ago. And we went down to, we were going to go down to the southwest side and do Resurrection Mary and go to some places down there. And then we came back to the city, and we did dinner at a haunted place. And then we did our city tour at night. So it was just this all-day thing. And we had about 20 people with us, and we found ourselves at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, which is known as one of the most haunted places in Chicago. And it's just, if you haven't been there, it's this little 1-acre cemetery back in the woods in the forest preserve. It's been desecrated so much over the years, and it's really gotten this reputation for being very actively haunted. And it's where everyone wants to go. So we decided that we're finally going to take people to Bachelor's Grove. So our bus brought us down there, and our bus is marked, and they dropped us off to the Forest Reserve entrance towards where the cemetery is, and then parked our bus in the parking lot across the street. And so we went in, and there was a film crew with us also that was doing a documentary. So they were filming me talking at Bachelor's Grove, and this Forest Preserve District cop comes in, and he says, "Who's in charge here?" And I said, you know, I am. But after we had come in, there were all these people, I guess, that had kind of followed us in that weren't with us. And I said, well, I'm in charge of some of these people, officer, but there's a lot of other people here that aren't with me. And then he turns to this woman next to me that's not with us and goes, "How'd you get in here?" And she goes, "We saw their bus outside." So he says to me, "Is your mother still alive?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Is your father still alive?" I said, "No." He said, "Swear on your father's grave you will never come back in here again, and I'll let all of your people go." And I'm like, "Well, what if I don't?"
Yeah.
And then he said he was going to cite everyone with me for trespassing. And I'm like, and the weird thing about it was the day before, a Forest Reserve District cop had been interviewed by the Chicago Tribune for like their weekend Halloween section about like all the ghost stories at Bachelor's Grove. And like, well, why would you allow that to happen and then tell people they can't be in here? So that was the day we left there. So then about a week later, we were doing another tour. There's this great cemetery, Archer Woods, that Scott just talked about. And we never had any occurrences like that where we ever saw anybody there. So we had, and the gates are always open, you know, all night long. So we got in the habit of taking our tour groups down there because we could walk them through the cemetery at night, which everyone loved. Well, this one night we had it was a mother's club from one of the parishes down there. And we took them into the cemetery at about 11 o'clock at night. And we were walking through the cemetery, and this car comes in and parks by the caretaker's house. And or the office is there, and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me! Like a week after, you know, Bachelor's Club, and like now we're not going to be able to come here anymore either, and he's going to have all of us arrested. So he gets out of the car, and I'm waiting for him to come over to us. Instead, he goes in the trunk of the car. He takes out this huge thing, like covered in a blanket, throws it over his shoulder, and like walks out back into the woods, and like we never see him again. And we're like, okay. So yeah, we spent a few more minutes there, and then